Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today we're going to be gathering all sorts of ingredients like wheat and rye and barley, and we're going to be mixing that together in barrels and adding spices and trying to impress the judges with our beer. Today we're talking about Dragon Brew. This is from August Games. It's for 2 to 4 players. It is a fantasy-themed worker placement game where we're going to be crafting the beer. It takes about 30 minutes per player to play. And let's take a look. I'm going to show you how it's played, and then I'll see you on the other side. And this is currently available on Kickstarter. In Dragon Brew, you're going to be trying to gather ingredients to create beers to impress different judges. Some of them want a lot of strength. Some of them want little strength. Some of them want a lot of bitterness. Some of them want a lot of color. So depending on how well you do, you'll be able to get different bonus points depending on which judge you impress. And you'll be doing this by being able to present your beers by having the right resources of barrels of beer and 1 or more spices to help the beer out. You'll be selecting one of many different races, like halflings, and you'll have different actions that you can take during the game by placing workers. You'll be drafting cards to give yourself more actions over the course of the game that you can go on, or you'll be getting different event cards that are one-time use abilities. And you'll be adding to the different recipes that you may be able to make with your barrels of beer and your spices. Now this is a Kickstarter preview, so all the art and components are subject to change. At the beginning of the game, you get to choose one of the 10 races in the game. Here's 5 of them. We have orcs, wizard folk, giants, dark elves, and centaurs. And we also have halflings, humans, elves, dwarves, and goblins. When you select your race, you will take the card and all the cards that go along with it. So all the cards are somewhat the same, but somewhat different between races. Some races have overlap, some of them don't. So they're all kind of the same, but all slightly different as well. And so I took the halfling, so it tells me all the resources that I start with. So I start with 7 workers. So I took 7 workers of the color I'm going to be during the game. You'd take different amount of recipe cards. We'd take some money. We'd take 1 of each of the starting resources, wheat, rye, and barley. And we'd get ready to get set up. Now everybody will get a player shield, and it will show you the ingredient characteristics. It will tell you about the starting gold, all the different icons, and a game turn flow and how things work. Now everyone will take this and flip it up like this, and they will keep their resources and their money secret. Their starting cards that come with their race, those are basically the estate cards, those will all be out in front where everyone can see. Along with your workers, you will just actually place them right on your race's card. So at the beginning of the game, it might look like this. I left the workers off just so you can see what the cards look like. Now in addition to the resources and money that stays behind your shield, also the recipes you're trying to finish will be behind your shield. In this case, the halflings started with 4 barrel recipes and 6 spices. And the way you'll be creating beer in this game is you'll be using at least 1 barrel for every recipe, and you can, if you want to, use spices on top of those. Spices can't go by themselves, but you'll try to complete some of these with one of these in order to impress the judges. So let's go about how the game works. Now here's the scoreboard that's kept here, but there's also a round marker. This tells us how many years you'll play for 3 rounds or 3 years, and each of those years you'll be going through phases that are different seasons that we'll go through in just a moment. Here's where the judges are. This is what you're trying to do during the game is be the one that can best suffice the judge, and there's different types of characteristics between color, strength, and bitterness, and sometimes they want bitterness up and strength down, or sometimes they want color up and strength down, and certain things like that. This is the primary characteristic, and this is the secondary characteristic. This is what you're going to be going after as you're trying to make your beer. The first phase is spring, and in spring on your turn, you'll be taking one of your workers from your card and placing it on one of the estate cards that you have and activating actions. In addition to doing that, you may also draft a card from the draft pool, which is made up of event cards and brewery cards. These event cards essentially just activate right away, and you'll be paying resources like gold or resources to do a one-time event. It would then get refilled, and this would go to a discard pile. The brewery cards, you pay the resources here, and you'll be placing them in your estate to add actions or upgrade actions that you already have. So on your turn in the spring phase, you'll be taking a brewer action. This is mandatory. You're going to take one of your workers and place it on one of your estate cards and carry out that action. Now some of them you'll just place there and do actions. Some cards in your estate are actually upgrade cards if they have this arrow. And this helps you upgrade things that you may already have in your estate. For example, this will upgrade my fields. So actually what happens is this card goes below here, and now we can upgrade the fields here. So the grain fields would normally, if I placed a worker here, would allow me to collect any 4 grains between the wheat and the barley or the rye. Those are the different resources there. But when I have the fertile fields upgrade, now in addition to the 4, I also get 2 more. So if I went here, I can go in one time, I can get 6 of the different resources there. And as I mentioned before, either before or after you take your brew action, it's optional to do one of these cards here to draft one of them. So let's say I did this. I would pay a coin and I would collect 1 wheat, 1 rye, and 1 barley. I would discard this and this would get refilled. So these cards just do different things. Now before or after I draft a card, I can spend 1 coin to remove any 5 of the 10 cards that are here and refill them from the proper rows. If I had bought one of these instead of buying one of those, let's say I bought another field upgrade, I would have paid my 2 coins and I would have placed this in my estate. So here I've added that wheat field to my grain field. So next time I go here, by the way, when you place a worker, if it has an infinity icon, this means you can do this as many times as you want. You're still only placing 1 brewer each turn, but you can place more than 1 here in a subsequent turn if it has that infinity symbol. So here I would actually get 6 of any of the grain and 2 wheat. Now some of the cards you may get might actually have a 1 on it, which means you can only use it once per year. So 1 work will be able to go on there. They're typically more powerful actions. And those are sort of how your turn works during the spring phase. You'll continue doing this until everybody is out of workers. And in the game, you've seen some of the resources are basically the grains, which are rye, barley, and wheat. But there's also resources called warts, and sometimes you'll be able to change different resources into warts, like this would be a purple wart, for example. But if you run out of workers before everybody else, well, when it's your turn, you still can draft these cards if you'd like. But again, we just go through this round until everyone's out of workers. Now in the fall phase, we're going to brew beers and then present them and try to win the judges over. Now as I was getting resources behind my shield, I was placing them on some of the barrels of beer that I am trying to make with the right resources. Now remember, to make a beer, essentially you have to have the right resource for a barrel, and if you want to, you can also add a spice or more than 1 spice if you have the right resources. So for all of the beers that I am trying to enter in, I would then lift up my shield and we would show them to the judges and see who had the best beer for the right judge. Once everybody has their beers ready, we would then get them judged. Now in this case, I just have my beers here just to make it easy to see, but everybody else's beers would be going against all these judges. In this case, we would just make sure that everybody has the right beer, which is exactly 1 barrel recipe card and 1 or more spice cards. In this case, I have that. And I have the right resources, so I can then show that and make sure everything's right. And once I do that, I can put all those back into the supply. Now we'd go through each of the judges and we'd see this one needs one that has the most barley. So we would look at all the beers that are supposed to be lined up that somebody's trying to win this for this judge, and they would look at the barley. In this case, I have 1 and 2, so I have a total of 3. If I had won this, I would be able to go up 3 points right away. I would also get this, which means this beer is not going to be entered into anything else. Now, we would go through here. Now, if it was tied here, we would actually then go to the strength, someone who has the least amount of strength. I have 0, so I might have won the tiebreaker. But if it's still tied, then you would split these points, discarding the remainder, and they both would get that. And you'd be moving up the score track barrels like that. Once all the judges have judged the beers, everybody's brewed beers, whether they won or not, would gain profits. For example, 1 point and 1 coin. 1 point, 2 more coins, and another coin. So everyone would get profits from all their beers. Then we move on to the winter phase, which is sort of a cleanup. We would advance to the next year. We would discard all the judges and put new ones out. Then all the event and brewery cards and recipe cards and spice cards would all get discarded and new ones would get put out. You'd also be getting all your workers back. You'd be giving back any temporary workers you placed, and all your brewing cards would get back behind your shield. And then you'd have to discard down to the certain amount of recipes in your recipe book here. Now all your ingredients would have to get discarded unless during the springtime you took this free action. That's what this means here. You wouldn't place a brewer here, but you would spend your action in the spring to place, in this case, up to 6 ingredients here to store them for the winter. And this is what you do for 3 years, and then the one that has the most points is the winner. If it's tied, the one with the most blue ribbons is the winner. If it's still tied, the one with the most gold between them is the winner. If it's still tied, they share victory. Now here are some other types of cards. We talked about upgrading cards, but here there's a multiplier. So we have this is 2 times and this is 1 time. So you could actually, when you place a worker here, you can do this 3 times because of the upgrade and the multiplying. This is a spell. It doesn't cost you a worker. You don't actually put a worker here. What you in fact do is put a spell here. You can do it 1 time as a spell. It costs as your action, but you put a spell in here and you do what it says. In this case, you can spend a toadstool to then move 2 of these temporary workers back to your estate cards. Temporary workers are purple ones that you can get through different cards, actions, and allows you to use them for that specific year. These are free actions, which means you can do them as many times as you want, and they don't require a worker, but it does cost you your action for the turn. Those are some of the other different cards in the game. Well, there's Dragon Brew from August Games. Now, this is that worker placement style game. So if you like those types of games, this is going to be one you're going to want to check out. It's cool because you can take actions that are in your different, unique race for that game, but you can then add actions to the ones that are available to you over the course of the game by buying new cards, which give you new actions like hiring new workers and things like that. So if you like that style of game and you like gathering different resources, putting them together and trying to complete something that, say, a judge would like, differences between rounds, this is going to be one that you're going to want to check out. Now, this game is on Kickstarter right now, and so if you'd like to check it out or back it, go ahead and click the link below in this video. That link will take you right to the Kickstarter page, and I'm sure the people at August Games would love your support.